Today's talk is on wild ducks. This is a koan that we come back to every once in a while. It's a particularly rich koan. The last few weeks I've been talking about the stories that we tell about ourselves, the stories of our lives, and how we put our experience into the context of these stories, and how this can be very limiting. At best, can be very limiting. At worst, it can be really giving us just a wrong view of what's going on with our lives. But at the very least, it's limiting us and cause us to oftentimes pay more attention to certain things that perhaps make sense in the story, but are not that important when we look at the bigger context of our lives and our families and our communities and the world. So it's that self-centered, egoic consciousness that tends to obsess about the story dimension of our lives. There's another dimension, a bigger dimension of our consciousness, which provides a much greater context for the meaning of this life that we have. And is also much more nourishing to abide in this big mind, this big heart mind, which is our true nature. It's Buddha nature that is our own inheritance. The isolated self-stories that we tell tends to generate anxiety and fear because of our sense of being separated from other beings and loved ones and communities. This intrinsic sense of I'm a separate character and you're a separate character and we're all engaged in this story. And that feeling of separation and sometimes isolation and loneliness that kind of can get fostered there produces, potentially just an intrinsic sense of insecurity and anxiety in our being. You could call it existential anxiety, right? So it's one of the blessings of realizing our true nature and actualizing our true nature as Buddha, awakened mind, is that it is such a relief to find that we're not alone, fundamentally not separate. And this is a joy and a cause of great laughter and tears of relief when we can really return home to this nature. So we have a famous awakening story from our tradition, which goes pretty far back. It's Blue Cliff Record, case 53, called Wild Ducks. Great Master Baso was walking together with Hyakujo. They saw some wild ducks fly past. The Great Master asked, "What's that?" Hyakujo said, "Wild ducks." The Great Master said, "Where have they gone?" Must have waited a few minutes. "Oh, where have they gone?" Hyakujo said, "Flown away." Great Master grabbed Hyakujo's nose and twisted it. Hyakujo cried out in pain. Great Master said, "When was this flown away?" Hyakujo had a powerful awakening. It was actually at this moment, and then it unfolded over the course of the next day. And I'm going to say the sequel to this in a little bit, but first we're going to talk about the primary event. So they're walking. I want to say a little bit about just the actual form of this encounter. So this is early in Zen, and Master Baso, also known as Matsu, was the master who really brought the form of face-to-face encounter to the fore in Zen practice. So really the koan tradition, it wasn't necessarily a tradition at that point, but the practice of teachers helping students awaken through these encounters was really started by Baso. All right. So he's walking down the meadow, perhaps, with his student Hyakujo, and everything is a teaching moment for him. So he asks a question, and in order to bring out or investigate or explore Hyakujo's mind, and to perhaps help him with that. So he says, what is that? What's that? Okay. So here's the primal Zen question. What's that? What is that? It's the same as who am I? Who's this? What's this? What's that? Who are you? It's all the same question. So what's that? Hyakujo said, wild ducks. Okay, so a good response. Okay, he's really appreciating the relative, you could say. Here's a form. Wild ducks. Sure, wild ducks. Okay. So far, so good. Wild ducks. Now, the great master says, where have they gone? Okay, watch out, Hyakujo. This is he's getting deeper here. Where have they gone? So Hyakujo says, flown away. He kind of steps in it. Okay. Now, on one level, it makes sense. Okay. Yes, they flew away. All right. Yeah. We can't say they didn't fly away, because in this relative sense, they flew away. So those words are meaningful, and they actually did that. They flew away. But is Hyakujo missing something just with this very definitive answer? They've flown away, and it turns out he is. Okay. He's missing something. So what's he missing? Well, let's appreciate this flown away. Okay. So yeah, there's something to that. Right? They've flown away. But consider what is flown away in your life. What is gone. Okay. What's gone? Parents, perhaps, siblings, your schooling, lovers, friends, careers. Is it all gone, flown away? Yeah, right? I mean, certainly we look at things that way. Those are past. Those are past. We can just orient these axes, gone in space and gone in time. Okay. So these things are gone. So you could say, where did your parents go? Oh, they're gone. Really? That might be a similar presentation, a similar encounter here. Yeah, so in one sense, they're gone. Perhaps they've passed away. But is there something else? Great master tweaks him by the nose. Twisted it. Painful. Hyakujo cries out. Great master said, when was this flown away? When did this happen? Okay. So, Basso is just bringing him right home to this moment, okay? Gone, not gone, here, there. Is any of that present when you get punched in the face? There's no here, there's no there, there's no past, there's no future. It's just, ow! The whole universe is one single moment. Everything condenses down into that moment of space-time, you could say, or being time, as Dogen put it. So it's this absolute dimension that Basso has and did initiate and catalyze Hyakujo's actualization of, realization of. by tweaking his nose and by leading him down this path of inquiry, and then, right at the right moment, tweaking his nose. To let him see this regular habit of mind we have, that there's a here and a there, there's a past and a future, that everything is separated and divided up in this way. So what's over there isn't here. The suffering that's happening over in Ukraine, that's over there. That's not here. The suffering that's happening down the street is there, not here. The environmental degradation that's happening, in the oceans, in the Arctic. That's there, that's not here. And similarly in time, those things that happened back then, that was then, this is now. There's a subtle turning away from the livingness of all of this when we put it into that category of there or then. And that's turning away. It's basically the ignorance of our true natures and the true nature of reality that's keeping us from really seeing that. But all there really is at the fundamental level is what Dogen called uji, or being time. Okay. In being time, there's just one reality, indivisible. And we have access to it through our own being. So the pain of the nose tweak is an immediate experience of being time. Dropped into from a place of that's gone, an abstracted experience of the world. So what good is this if we have to just go around getting punched in the face all the time? Is this the life we want to lead? Well, it actually is, because there's a great follow-up. It's true. I want to say the verse, just a comment on the verse, and then I'm going to get to the follow-up. So the verse, this is from Secho, who created verses on the Blue Cliff record. The verse goes like this: wild ducks, who knows how many, Basso sees it and talks about it, telling all about the clouds on the mountains and the moon over the sea. Still not understanding, Hyakujo flew off instead. But Master Basso held him fast. Speak, speak. Okay. The best line here that I like the best is, still not understanding, Hyakujo flew off instead. Okay, when we say flown away, we're the ones who are flying away. We're flying away from our true experience, from our true nature. Right? And I'm sure we all have this experience in our lives of kind of spreading ourselves thin, right? It's all those things out there that we're worried about and that we're paying attention to and that we're taking care of, and we end up with our minds kind of grasping and reaching for them and worrying about them and trying to solve them and fix them and attend to them, and all of this reaching outward that we're oftentimes constantly doing. Right? And then we lose ourselves because of this flight from our experience, our beingness. Hyakujo flew off instead. lose that connection, or push it away, or allow the veil to drop. We're really losing ourself. So the follow-up, the next day, Baso, who's the master of the monastery, he goes up to the hall to give his talk. And as soon as his whole congregation had assembled, Hyakujo came forward and rolled up the bowing mat, which basically indicates, okay, we're done. Baso immediately left his seat and went back to his room. But after he had returned to the abbot's quarters, he called to Hyakujo, and Hyakujo must have been his senior at this point because he's in charge of rolling up the mat, and then he shows up in his quarters, a few minutes later. And Baso says, I had just gone up to the hall and hadn't yet given my talk. Why did you roll up the mat right away? Hyakujo said, yesterday I had my nose twisted by you, teacher, and it hurt. Baso said, where were you keeping your mind yesterday? Hyakujo said, today the nose no longer hurts. Baso said, you have profound knowledge of today's affair. Hyakujo then bowed and returned to the attendants' quarters crying. One of his fellow attendants asked, why are you crying? Hyakujo said, go ask our master. The attendant then went to ask Baso, and Baso said, go ask Hyakujo. The attendant returned to the quarters and asked Hyakujo and said, Baso just sent me back to you. Hyakujo laughed loudly. The attendant, who's completely confused at this point, says, you were crying just now. Why are you laughing? Hyakujo said, I was crying before, now I'm laughing. And then the commentary is, look at Hyakujo after his enlightenment turning smoothly. He can't be trapped. Naturally, he's sparkling clear on all sides. So we can see his freedom here and how he represents it. Now Baso, with his a new testing question, so what's going on? Why did you roll up the mat? He asks about right now, and Hyakujo says, well, yesterday my nose hurt. Interesting. Asks about today, and he talks about yesterday. And then he says, well, what is your mind right now? And he says, well, yesterday, then he says, well, so what was it? He says, where were you keeping your mind yesterday? He says, today my nose no longer hurts. Yeah. Okay. So he's showing, right? Yesterday, today. I'm not going to get caught up on all that. I'm showing you. You ask me about yesterday, I tell you about today. You ask me about today, I tell you about yesterday. All one. All one. Okay, now you don't answer this way when you're having a conversation with your partner, right? This isn't a functional relationship kind of operation here. This is a dharma exchange. And Hyakujo is showing that he penetrated through the artificial separation of past and present, future, here and there. And then the freedom comes, right? I mean, I imagine when he goes back, he goes right from this encounter with Baso, who says, you have profound knowledge of today's affair. I mean, the feeling of being validated in your, realization of your Buddha nature is so wonderful. Those of you who have, passed koans and had your experience validated, can appreciate that. It's so, even if you have strong feeling of a depth of experience with yourself, to have your teacher, validate it is essential. It's actually essential to really fully actualize it within yourself. So he's just crying, and I envision, it doesn't say this, but I envision he's really just crying tears of joy and relief and gratitude for Baso. And then the monk goes and he comes back, and then the monk, he's probably just kind of laughing at this guy who's so confused, and he's just, you don't get it at all, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm feeling joyful right now. So there's this incredible freedom, incredible flow and openness and connection to land in our true nature like this. So we can laugh at our stories, our life stories, when we really see this dimension. We see that it is all one. We're always at the center of everything. There's nothing to lose, nothing to gain. Just one tweaked nose after another. Sometimes painful, sometimes pleasurable, sometimes sad, sometimes happy. It's all together, all one. And when we're fully happy, be happy, fully sad, be fully sad. Feel pain, feel the pain fully, feel the joy fully. Let go of all of the kind of overview, control, narrative that wants to create meaning or structure, organization, story. Out of it all. And right in that immediate experience is a great, vast, expansive sense of yourself, this big mind. Right now, present. As yourself.